to the To You Mystery Tour. I'm Alex.
I'm Niku.
And today...
It should be me asking you that.
Oh, yeah.
And today...
we are going to be talking about a one man named D.B. Cooper.
He is a famous guy. We're doing like one that most people have probably heard of.
If you haven't heard of him, you're living under a rock.
You probably have heard of his name at least, but maybe not the details. That's the same. That's probably with me. I know about him just very high level.
Well,
and today you're going to tell me more.
I am indeed.
We've switched places again.
We have. Okay, so...
You guys need to comment below and tell us who you prefer.
And subscribe and like the channel as well, please.
But also tell us who you prefer to tell the stories.
Oh, no, don't do that. Don't pit us against each other. Okay, so in Portland, Oregon, on November the 24th, the day before Thanksgiving, in 1971, a nondescript man appearing to be in his mid-40s and about 6 feet tall bought a $20 ticket for Northwest Orient Airlines flight 305. This flight was bound for Seattle, Washington, and the man gave his name as Dan Cooper.
So he's not going very far. Like Oregon to Seattle?
Portland to Seattle, yeah.
Is Portland in Oregon?
Yeah, Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, so it's just like, yeah, it's not very far. I always thought he was going to Utah or across Utah. But I think that's from Prison Break.
Yeah.
I think it is because, they buried his stuff in Utah.
Honestly, the amount of pop culture stuff that's come out of this is unbelievable. So Cooper boarded the plane. He was in a business suit with a black tie and a white shirt, and he was accompanied with horn-rimmed sunglasses, a trench coat, and loafers. What a look. I can show you like that. So he ordered a drink, a bourbon and soda, and he waited for the flight to take off.
Bourbon? Is that whiskey?
Yes, bourbon whiskey.
Have you had bourbon and soda?
Not in soda, no.
Yum. We should have that tomorrow.
Maybe not. A short time after taking off, around 3 p.m., he handed a stewardess by the name of Florence Schaffner a note reading, "Miss, I have a bomb here and I would like you to sit by me." Imagine getting that in you. She was a fairly young steward. I think she was...
That's a nice pick-up line.
Yeah, she was one of the... Yeah, I think she was one of the youngest stewardesses that was on the flight. There was a whole heap of... the amount of crew that's on that flight, there was 3 pilots and 6 stewardesses or stewards on the flight.
It's quite a large flight.
That's what I thought as well, because I didn't think it was normal to have 3 pilots on it. But yeah, so the stunned stewardess did as she was told, and while she was sat by him, he opened a cheap attaché case. So attaché case is one of those, do you remember those old school block suitcases, briefcases that you would click and then you fold it open?
Oh, that's so 70s.
And it would have would be stacks of money in it.
Oh, yeah.
But instead of stacks of money, he showed her a glimpse of a battery, a mass of wires, and red-coloured sticks, all in the suitcase, i.e. what looks like a bomb. And he demanded she write down what he told her. So soon, stewardess was taking down a note and took it to the captain of the plane. And in the note, it demanded 4 parachutes. He wanted 4 parachutes and $200,000 in $20 bills upon landing. He wanted that to be at the airport for him. And $200,000 in that money is $1.2 million in today's money.
Oh, wow. So how does he think he can just get money at the airport?
It's mental.
Without getting arrested on arrival?
But he's essentially hijacked a plane. And he said, "I've got a bomb. I'll blow it up unless you get me what I want."
But he hasn't really thought this through, has he? Give me the money when we land. When I'm no longer a threat. I suppose then he'd be like, I'm gonna...
Well,
okay.
You think that. But you are right. He would technically be no longer... he has a whole flight of 36 passengers on the plane with him.
Yeah.
So the flight to Seattle, as you said, it's very close. So it only took 30 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
To get to. But air traffic control kept them circling the airport in a pattern over a large body of water in a place called Puget Sound. for nearly 2 hours while the government agents were kind of scrambling to try and get the supplies and meet the man's demands, because they were meeting his demands. They were going to, because he was holding essentially 36 people plus cabin crew and staff hostage. So they were going to do it.
Oh, it's not a very large flight. 36 people. It must be quite a small one.
A small plane.
Okay. But
Which
it's
is,
not 3
again,
pilots.
weird for how many pilots. Yeah. I'm pretty sure there was 36 people on board. Yes, 36.
I mean, it's like 360.
No, it's 36. But it was like a lightning storm and stuff, and there was a big storm. And actually, after the fact, the crew found out that the reason that they were being told to go in a holding pattern over this large body of water was because if Dan Cooper had set the bomb off, they didn't want remains of people like falling over like city city and stuff. They just wanted to go straight into the water.
Oh my god, that's pretty grim.
Yeah. Not nice, is it?
No, but it makes you realize how like they were. It's like not personal at all, is it? For these are people, but they're like thinking about we need to think about how they're gonna die or something.
Yeah, well, they just didn't want to freak other people out.
Yeah, I suppose
it's crazy.
And if a plane falls on to like a residential area, it's gonna kill even more people.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Very true. Like in terms of the parts of the plane and stuff. Yeah. That's a good point actually. So they landed eventually. Cooper released the 36 passengers, and the authorities. Well, when the authorities had provided the money and the parachutes, so he actually then forced 2 pilots, a flight engineer, and a flight attendant to remain on the plane.
So they landed.
He received the goods that he demanded. So he received the money and the parachutes. And then he said he released 36 passengers, all of the crew except for 2 pilots, a flight engineer, and a flight attendant.
Okay.
So after it had refueled, he then ordered the pilots to fly him to Mexico City.
Oh.
Yes.
Is this?
So what he did is he told them, he said he instructed the pilot to fly under 10,000 feet and at a speed slower than 200 knots.
Okay.
So because at around 8 p.m., so they think he was between Seattle and Reno, Nevada, and it's widely believed to be near the area that they were in at that point was near Ariel, Washington. Again, we are British, so I don't know what the kind of towns and things like that. So I might be pronouncing it completely wrong as well. But Cooper removed his tie, he lowered the rear steps, and he jumped out of the back of the plane with 2 parachutes and the ransom money. Now, the reason I think that there was 2 parachutes is I saw the parachutes that they were actually like that they provided him with, and there's not a safety on them. So my assumption is he jumped out with 2 because if he pulled one and it didn't work, he could pull the other one.
Ah, right.
Is my assumption.
But he asked for 4.
Why he asked for 4, I don't know.
In case he lost.
Yeah.
2 on the way.
Yeah, but what they later discovered is one of the parachutes that he had taken had actually been sewn shut. So if he had pulled it, it wouldn't have worked because it was a training parachute. So it was just for training. It's just in terms of like doing all the actions. It doesn't actually release anything.
Oh, so he was clever to take 2 with
So
him.
he was actually quite smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
In case of that happened.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm. So he could have died really if he didn't take 2.
So he jumped out the plane, the 2 parachutes and all the money, and he actually used the cord from one of the remaining parachutes in the plane to tie the stolen money bag, like all of the money bags, shut and to him.
Okay.
So he used it to attach him to him, so he didn't have to kind of make sure he was holding on to it all the time. After that, the pilots landed safely, but obviously Cooper was gone. He had disappeared into the night. And his ultimate fate remains a mystery to this day. So that's pretty much all of the information that people know about this case. Okay. That's it. And it's been going on. It's the longest and most exhaustive investigation in history. So this was in 1971. And the case actually... So the FBI they began launching a case actually while the plane was still in the air because they found out about it. And it was named Norjack for Northwest hijacking. And so this case went on from they officially closed it in 2016.
Okay.
So it's I think it's one of the longest like mysteries that's to be unsolved like in history.
It's still unsolved, even
yeah.
if they closed it.
So initially the agency believed, so this is kind of where the agency kind of had some sort, like, this is what their thoughts were and their kind of theories and things like that. But initially the agency believed that Cooper knew about planes and the area he was traveling over, so he'd kind of clued himself in. And it was actually speculated that he served in the military, possibly as a paratrooper. But it was decided, they decided that he probably wasn't an experienced skydiver in the end because the jump was too dangerous and he failed to notice that his reserve parachute was shown set for training.
Yeah.
So my question, but I did think, like, could he have just unsewn it?
Well, if
he saw
sewn, if it's sewn shut, how has he got time to unsew it?
If just use a knife and quickly.
But he's got two other options. Why didn't you just take one of them instead?
Yeah. Yes, that's a good point actually. But so they think that he probably wasn't a paratrooper.
Yeah.
In the end, and the agency reported that it looked at over 800 suspects.
Okay.
In the first 5 years. With almost all being eliminated. Some were ruled out on basis of DNA that was eventually recovered from the tie that Cooper took off before jumping. But they actually did have a prime suspect for a while. And his name was Richard Floyd McCoy. And he was arrested for a very similar crime several months later. But he was eliminated as a suspect mainly because the two flight attendants had actually given pretty much near identical descriptions of the man, of DB Cooper, and he didn't match them at all. He didn't match those descriptions at all. So they kind of, he obviously was in jail already. He'd gone to prison for committing something similar, but he actually, while serving his sentence, I was going to say a fun fact. It's not a very fun fact, but while serving his sentence, he made he made a fake gun and escaped from prison. But he was killed in a shootout with law enforcement.
Mad things happen in the 70s, don't they?
Yeah, I know.
Can't imagine that happening now.
But it makes sense. Like this whole thing, like again, going back to what we spoke about last week with the like the film element.
Yeah.
It's very filmy.
I know. I wonder if it's filmy because we have seen it on TV because it's been reenacted so many times by people, and because it's the sort of thing that would get reenacted. I mean, someone hijacking a plane and then parachuting out of it.
It's crazy.
It does sound like a movie.
It does. So many obviously speculate that he didn't survive because he jumped out of a plane. But apparently at that altitude, the winds were more than 200 miles per hour, 322 kilometers an hour. And the parachute he used apparently couldn't be steered. So it's just a pull and just you land where you land.
How did they know that he used like a dummy parachute? Did they not find it? Did they find it on the ground?
No. They've never found any. They've not found anything.
So how did they know one of them was...
Because I think they'll have given him one just to
and then the two that was like left over were the proper ones, and then they were like, oh, he did take them.
So it'll have been a process of elimination, I think.
So it was a purposeful. Maybe it was a purposeful.
I would say so because they were aware that he had taken a training parachute. But in addition to this, he would have landed in a rugged, heavily wooded area. So he would have. I mean, if you can't control the parachute, you're gonna, and you land in a tree or something. It's at least going to hurt. However, there was a slight break in the case in 1980.
Ooh.
When a boy found a decaying package containing $5,800, and this package was buried along the Columbia River north of Portland and some 20 miles, 32 kilometers from Ariel, the place where they speculated that he jumped, that location of where he jumped. And the serial numbers of the money, all of which were $20 bills, matched those of the ones that they gave him in the ransom. So it was the cash that they had given him on the plane.
It was found buried.
It was found buried on a river, like a riverside.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
But, following an extensive search after that, nothing else was found. And then,
because it's all in Utah.
Was that right? But yeah, so like that's pretty much the case. But as I said, FBI received heaps of tips. Nothing came of it. But in 2016, it was officially closed because the FBI stated that its resources could best be used on other cases. Which I mean,
Fair enough.
yeah, it's gone. And fun fact for you. So the man used the alias Dan Cooper. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's not his real name, but in subsequent news reportings and in a subsequent news report,
Third time lucky.
A reporter misheard the name, and he said DB Cooper, and that's how it stuck. Oh. So that's why he's known as DB Cooper.
It's got a ring to it because A B C D. It's like DB.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, DB. Yeah, they're like E.
Yeah.
E at the end. Yeah, but yeah, that is the case. But I mean, as we've spoken about, kind of you've said with the Prison Break thing, he's been reenacted, and he's like this folk hero. And there's so many. Like I was looking up, there's so many things based around him. It's unreal.
I don't know why he's gotten so famous.
I think it's the mystery element. Yeah. And you can use it really well. So like we were talking, like you can integrate it into stories. Like in Prison Break, spoiler if you've.
If you haven't seen Prison Break by now, we're judging you.
But yes, he was a character in Prison Break.
Yeah, it's not really a spoiler, guys.
And they went and got and they looked for the money. But so, would you like to know the 15 best movie and TV moments featuring DB Cooper?
Go for it.
So the first one is The Mystery of DB Cooper. Which
Very original.
Done by HBO Max. Is
it a documentary?
It's an in-depth documentary. In Search Of was another series, again, kind of documentary thing. The Pursuit of DB Cooper, another. I
wonder if I'll know any of these.
The Pursuit of DB Cooper, I believe, was kind of a Hollywood film.
Okay.
Ha Ha Ha.
Okay. That movie?
Yeah, looks like a movie. Prison Break, as we said.
That's the most famous one, I think.
That or I bet Loki won't be on here, but there's one called Skyjack, News Radio, Journeyman.
These seem like they're American.
News Report, Bigfoot versus DB Cooper.
Oh my god,
that's so good.
That's too far.
Skyjacked. Everything is fine. Dan Cooper Comics. Oh, that's quite cool. He made a comic. The Far Side and Todd Sniper, DB Cooper. But as I said, Loki. There was also a reference to DB Cooper where the Marvel film, the Marvel TV show.
Yeah, I remember that and Prison Break. I haven't heard of any of these other ones. I wonder if anybody has really.
Neither have I. They're all American made.
Yeah. So
again, we're Britain. Oh, and if you're interested, I'll put it on the screen. If you're watching the video, if you're not watching, if you're listening on audio, feel free to go over to YouTube and you will see a map detailing kind of the flight path and where things were found and things like that.
So
what's your
interesting.
First thing is, do you think he survived?
Well, I was thinking about how he wouldn't have until you told me about this buried money.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, but the thing is, the money is found near Portland. So he has obviously gone back to where he started the flight from.
No.
Oh no, the original flight. He's going
that way. So he's going down. He jumps out here.
Yeah. But remember,
he lands out here and then he just goes that way.
He took the flight from Portland to Seattle, landed in Seattle, took the money, and then started flying away towards Mexico.
Oh.
So he is originally from Portland, most likely, because he's gone back.
I have a theory.
You have a theory?
So I completely missed that.
Okay.
I completely missed the fact that he was...
Everything started in Portland, and this money has been found very near Portland.
I completely missed... I didn't realize... yeah.
Yeah. So I think his whole plan was to get back to Portland.
I think he's put like a stash house. He's created a stash house beforehand.
Yeah, something like that. Or he's got an accomplice at home or something who is waiting for him.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I wonder if he had someone waiting for him. Maybe he didn't survive, but that person took the money
Rude.
Well, yeah, I know, right? But that's the only way I can explain the buried money if he were not to have survived. I think he maybe has flight experience because he told them at what altitude and at what speed to go. I just feel like that
in terms of being able to jump out of a plane.
Yeah, I just feel like that kind of thing in the 70s wasn't easy to Google or wasn't easy to like, find out. They didn't have even phones, mobile phones. So it definitely, he either knew someone or he had like people who had told him how to do it, or he knew himself like how to jump out and at what altitude. But still, I don't think he got it right because they said it's a high chance he died because of the wind speed and stuff. So maybe he didn't actually know what he was doing. But I think, can you show me what horn-rimmed glasses look like?
I can.
I actually don't know what they are.
Give me a minute. Okay, horn-rimmed glasses. I guess I'll have to put these on the screen as well.
You guys should visit our Instagram. We put photos of the case on our Instagram posts.
That's what we'll do. I'm not going to put it in here. I'll put it in there. Horn-rimmed glasses. These are horn-rimmed glasses. Oh, they are classic. Like
they're very nice, actually.
But they are classic, like old school glasses, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very smart looking. Like I can imagine him wearing a suit with those glasses, like he was. Yeah.
But you put a hat on him as well, wouldn't you?
Those glasses? I just feel like he.
Oh, do you want to see what he looks like as well?
I've seen his like drawings of.
Oh, you've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, but those are not horn-rimmed glasses. They look like sunglasses from the photo that they've.
But unless they're fully horn-rimmed, so these might be like style ones. So like they're horn-rimmed as well.
Oh yeah, God, I can totally imagine what he. I think they're quite good sketches. I can imagine seeing this guy in the street.
Totally, yeah.
Like most of the sketches are very like. Kind of like you can't even tell if that's a person.
It's
like,
a very average.
It could be
thing,
anybody.
But I think that's why, because the two stewardesses and probably others were able to describe him so well. Probably because they were with him for a good while, and they were. I mean, when you're in that that shock, you probably remember them fairly well.
Yeah. I just wonder, because this is such a good sketch, and there's just no way he wouldn't have been seen. Because, let's face it, I don't think he's gone out to Florida. He is still on the West Coast, because that money is still on the West Coast.
What if he paid, he has the equivalent of $1.2 million now, right? If you flew, would you not be like, I will give you 200 grand if you fly me from here to Mexico? Or if you fly me from here to the Bahamas.
And the other person buried it. It wasn't him who buried it.
Or it just things went awry and he buried stuff on the way as like a safety net. And then, I mean, if you care, that's what his tie looks like.
Did they find this tie?
So he took it off before he jumped.
Oh my God.
It's like a clip tie. See, it's not like a tie.
So it's like everything is like kind of fake with his appearance.
And then that's the money that they found. In it was 9 years later.
Wow.
So, and then that's the parachute looks like. Imagine jumping.
I know, right?
And then that is that's one of the unused parachutes. Apparently.
Again, you guys will have these photos on our Instagram for you guys to look at. It's really interesting, actually. But I think that. He had an accomplice for sure.
You reckon?
Well, not an accomplice because he did everything himself, but I think there was a getaway car or driver. And I don't think...
You always need a getaway driver.
Yeah, but I think that he had someone waiting for him, and I think he went out of the country, but not to Mexico, to Canada, because they're closer to Canada.
Oh, so I don't think he died.
You don't think so?
I don't think he died. The reason being that they found nothing. They found no remains. They found no like clothing. They found no parachute remains. Nothing.
They didn't even find the money.
If you would find even if he was to be eaten by a wild animal,
you'd find the parachute.
You'd find something.
You definitely. Parachutes are massive.
He just take he took it all to again hide his tracks, and that's two different states, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're going from one state into another. And I mean, we watched something, it was it wasn't a documentary, but it was like a reenactment, a retelling of the fact of one of the first cases where states started to speak with each other.
Yeah.
So My thought is I think it was after 1970s. So what happened, like if they're not talking to each other and he just crosses the state line and he's off, I suppose the FBI is involved actually, and they are fully nationwide.
Yeah, that's why I wonder if he went. I don't even think Alaska, because Alaska is still a state of America. I think he maybe disappeared into Canada, and information wasn't so. It just wasn't traveling as fast in the 70s, I don't think. I agree. He's not dead. I think he paid people to help him get out once he landed. And I think that's what the money is about. It's not actually him that buried it. I think maybe someone was scared because they knew it was stolen, so they buried it. This is it's always like fascinated me. I actually didn't know that he landed.
What do you mean?
Like, I had no idea.
Oh, landed, refueled, and went out.
And I can't believe they allowed this to happen. Like,
it's a tough one because
he was allowed to refuel and fly away when there was so many people who knew about this. Could they not track him after that?
But they knew where he was going. They knew he was going to Mexico. So there's nothing they can do apart from wait for him in Mexico.
Is the flight radar back in those days not?
But you would like that's what I mean. It doesn't. Because the pilot was able to communicate with the ground, and be like, look, we're being held hostage. This guy's got a bomb. He's going to blow up the plane, unless you do this, and this.
Yeah.
So there's communication between the ground and the plane. When it lands and goes back up on its way to Mexico, the only thing that they can do is be like, they can probably track the plane. But the only thing they can do in terms of, like, unless they want to shoot the plane out the sky, is wait for it to land again.
But how was he able to take off, like, go on the runway and take off without any interference, without being stopped, without...
Because he still had hostages.
Yeah, I suppose
he still had five hostages.
I suppose this case is probably so big in pop culture because it's not really a massive tragedy because there are no deaths.
Yes.
Because of him.
Yeah.
So I suppose it kind of makes it more okay to, have it in movies and stuff as much.
Yeah. Imagine you found his money today.
I don't know, like... I feel like you would have found it by now, especially when the investigation's gone on for so long. But then we do forget the United States is a massive...
It's huge.
Massive place.
And as you said, imagine you went to Canada.
He probably... he is just like one state over.
Yeah, he's not far.
From Canada. And because a lot of people are like,
he went from Washington into Oregon. You could just go into Idaho, into Montana. Oh,
you could find. I don't think he'd go back into Washington.
Or get a little boat. Get a little boat number and
all you
into
need,
British Columbia.
I think it is very easy to get into Canada that way. And
in the 1970s.
Yeah, Canada wouldn't even have a clue about who this guy is.
No.
So I think he survived and went to Canada, and I think he's a very smart guy because, and a confident guy, because I can't imagine someone could get away with actually landing a plane and then getting it to go off again.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah, and then parachuting off. This is why it's such a famous case, because it's absolutely crazy.
It's also like if he made it, it's gone off without a hitch.
Well,
it's a plan that hasn't had, like, there's been no issues in the plan. The plan's gone exactly to plan.
How did he get onto the plane? Did he not need to show a passport? Is this back before the airport, like, security buying a ticket? Like, they obviously didn't keep track of everything. Is like paper copies. So you probably bought the ticket at the airport with like cash or something.
Well, yeah, they just said he just paid $20 for a ticket.
Do you even need to show a passport for inside flights?
In-flight, possibly not, or he just had some fake documentation or something.
Yeah, I just wonder, because even if you did show your ID, I don't think it was scanned or anything back in those days.
They didn't have scanning back in 1970. No, they didn't.
They must have done something, but I don't think it was like held on record. Nothing was on records.
It's wild.
Like that. This is why all this wild stuff happened in the 80s and 70s, because they didn't keep track of anything. And then all this happened, and then that's when they started to
They just assumed no one would have the balls to do it.
Yeah, I know. But
also, like, look at, like, you'd have to have, like, fair play, fair play to DB Cooper, jumping out of a plane and trusting something that looked like that.
I mean, this
to
bag,
keep him alive.
a canvas bag.
It looks like a satchel.
This is someone who has nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And I wonder I would love to know
about
this.
the person. That's what I mean.
would love
That's
to
why
know
it's so
for this to get
mad,
solved.
because there's no information about him. There's no
It drives me crazy.
because it's a full alias. No one knows about him. No one there's nothing. No one ever kind of came forward and is like, this looks like this person. This seems like this person.
Maybe
It's
he
all,
wasn't American. Maybe he came from Canada.
Maybe.
And he just went back.
It could. I mean, there's so many options. It's mental.
I know. I wonder if he was actually American.
Mm-hmm.
What if he was Canadian and he like crossed to do this crime, get this money,
go back,
and he did it.
Yeah.
He got it, and I don't know. I wonder if he did die, but if he didn't, then which I highly doubt he did, then this kind of stuff now.
How old would he be now?
He'd be pretty old. I don't know how old
50.
he was at the time of this happened. Like,
it was how many years ago was it? 51.
Because how old was he? How old does he look? He looks about 40. Does he? Or
51.
He'd be 80 by now, if he's 40 in that.
No, he'd be 90. It was 51 years ago.
Was it 50? Oh, when was this?
1971.
Okay.
So it's 51 years ago. So he would be. He does look like 30, late 30s, 40s.
He'd be like 91.
Yeah, he'd be like, so he's probably died. Well, or he's on his deathbed now.
Oh, I don't know. I hope someone knows him and just comes forward. I really want this to be
Someone
solved.
finds a diary.
Yeah, and he's admitting to being DB Cooper.
Yeah. And he like tells them where the money's buried.
I don't think the money exists anymore. It's been too long.
What? Nah, the money exists somewhere.
No, he definitely has spent it all.
But that's what I mean. But it still exists. So you're still like the serial number is like.
Oh yeah, because it's
you would
cash.
think that when they, because I'm sure when they burn like as in when they're I can't remember what it's called, but you bring in old notes, you burn them, and then you redistribute new notes.
Okay.
So it's the same amount of money, but it's like newer currency, newer looking currency. But you would think that they would check the serial numbers on them. If they didn't and they burned it, you'd be, it's never being sold.
But because it was in the 70s, I wonder if they were. Like if the money was in like Texas.
Yeah, fair.
If he's crossed and like spent it in Texas, they wouldn't have a clue about.
Oh yeah, you go to a convenience store and they're like, let me just check the serial number on that.
I know.
Doesn't happen.
Totally. But yeah, this is so interesting. I didn't know anything. I didn't know this much detail. I had no idea he landed the plane. I had no idea that he actually.
Neither did I.
But then I was like, how did he get all this money if he never landed the plane? It's not just sitting on the plane, is it? I actually had it in my head that he had a lot less than that. Because and then when you said he was going from Portland to Seattle, I thought he did the parachuting there, but no. So very interesting. But I think my theory is a little bit boring, but I think it may be the right way to go for it. Yeah,
I would agree with you. I think I think he probably did like have an accomplice or someone else that knew. But if you're watching DB Cooper and you did this all by yourself,
comment down below.
Kudos to you. Kudos to you. Yeah, reach out.
Reach out.
We'd love to have a chat. But yeah, well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening, watching, viewing, subscribing.
Thank you for the case this week,
no
Alex.
problemo.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. If there's any information I've missed, let me know. I'm pretty confident I haven't messed anything up, but you never know. But yeah, let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, join us again in 2 weeks for another mystery.
Bye.
Bye.